quietest opening. I guess if I don't say something, everybody is waiting for me to say something. Hi.
Oh.
Hi, we're live. Hi.
Hello. Oh, should I play a sting?
I don't know. I'm a little worried on the live video if it gets us killed by the bot or not. I just never know. Do you have a
Radio
short one?
Holland claims this music as ours.
Can you tell how long they are?
This is 6.
75 degrees in Los Angeles, mostly sunny skies. We're dipping down to 66 tonight. Scott Johnson and Tom Merritt with you along the way this afternoon, getting you through, getting you home with the traffic report coming up in 15 minutes from Roger Chang. In the meantime, let's get into the music. Here are the Ramones.
Man, school's out for summer. No, that really stuck with you. That was probably really a heavy influence, right? Like,
I was 16 when I started doing.
Oh yeah, stuff like
radio,
that will burn itself into your head.
Absolutely. That's why I could still quote Chaucer and Shakespeare, the stuff that I learned in high school. Oh. I can't tell you what I had for breakfast yesterday. Well, I can because I have the same thing every day. But
what do you eat every day? What's your go-to?
Lately, I have changed from yogurt to kefir, but it is generally a muesli and kefir with some blueberries and bananas.
That is some smart eating.
That is some California breakfast.
What did I have? Oh, I had eggs and toast. I made eggs. I made eggs in a Pyrex container.
That's a real breakfast right there.
That's amazing.
That sounds good. I'm coming to your house for breakfast from now on.
I toasted it and added butter and ate it because I was hungry.
Yeah.
I did something similar, except it wasn't eggs. It was toast and bacon. I skipped the eggs altogether.
Yeah, I try to avoid the red meats. Like, I know I'll get enough of it in my diet, so there's no need to go out of my way to add it.
Yeah, I do the bacon on the weekend mostly. I would eat bacon every day for breakfast if someone made it for me. I just don't want to go to the trouble.
I couldn't.
Bacon.
What do you have for breakfast, Scott?
I had bacon and a half piece of toast. It wasn't even a full piece of toast.
But do you have different things all the time? Is that?
Oh yeah, it depends. Yeah. I mean, Kim's always trying to get me to eat the stuff you're eating, so I'll probably start doing that. But right now, I'm kind of.
It's just easy. Eileen has pretty much the same thing. Hers is yogurt, not kefir, and granola, not muesli. She doesn't like the muesli.
It's the little bits in muesli that bug me. I mean,
it's like eating dirt.
Yeah, what do you eat?
Is that twigs?
Is that twigs, acorns, and nuts?
Oh, that Wikipedia didn't work.
I sometimes will be bold and have a bowl of cereal where I mix in 3 cereals because I'm running low on all of them, and I don't want to buy new boxes.
Kama is a mixture of roasted barley, rye, oat, and pea flour.
I've never peed in flour. Pea flour. Like
don't pee in the flour.
I used to get Bob's Red Mill muesli Fire Dog, but I stopped buying it. I started making my own muesli because then I can vary up the dried fruits in it, and it's cheaper.
You can decide how much mousse and how much lean.
Yeah.
In there. What's the difference between that and Mueslix? Is Mueslix just somebody's version of muesli?
Mueslix is a cereal based on muesli.
Okay.
Although
so wait, what's the laxative one?
That's no, not Mucinex.
That's Metamucil.
Metamucil.
I also have that in the morning.
Every morning, a little Metamucil.
No, I was not muesli. Oh, what was it? Oh man, I totally spaced. Oh no, what I do, I still have my magic bullet, so I'll take whatever remaining frozen food I have in the freezer, and I'll take the head of kale that I buy once every 2 weeks and shove it in there and drink it.
All right. Well, Scott Johnson.
Yeah, that's me.
You are prepared.
I
don't care what Illidan says.
I don't care what he says either. He's
never. The person who voices him, I care very much.
But we love Liam.
Liam's great, but Illidan himself, forget it. All right,
hiding.
Roger's hiding.
Roger hiding.
Top stories loading. Intro ready. Here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by listeners just like me and you, not outside organizations. To find out how you can contribute, visit dailytechnewsshow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, July 19th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt. Scott Johnson along this afternoon, getting you home on a Wednesday afternoon, everybody. Actually, a lot of people listen to this in the morning, so it doesn't work, does it?
Yeah. You were earlier doing an incredible throwback to like some old school radio technique, and I think it's going to bleed through today's episode. It's going to happen again. I can feel it.
It might. We're going to kick off 30 minutes of commercial-free technology news. Doesn't have the same ring, does it?
No, but I love it because I think it's a thing that probably benefited you, like turned you into like a real capable radio dude. And now you've got this refined thing that doesn't need that kind of zoo tone anymore. But you
don't have a rock block of tech news, though.
That's right. We're going to spin the hits until the next 8-hour commercial break, everybody.
Let's start off with a few tech things you should know. The U.S. College Board reports more than 29,700 female students took advanced placement tests in computer science in 2017, up 135% from last year. A new AP course designed to introduce principles of computer science was introduced and may have aided that jump. College Board also noted an increase of 170% among Black and Latino students in the U.S. to 22,000.
I think that's awesome. I want to see, I was telling you this morning on the morning show, I want to see what this workforce is in 5 years. I think that sounds super interesting and like a very diverse workforce in a place that is going to make the tech sector a little more vibrant. I'm stoked about that. Samsung launched its Bixby voice assistant. You know, the one I hate and I would never say out loud, but I'm going to do it for the show. In the U.S. for Galaxy S8 users. So if you're one of those users, you've likely already got it if you desire to use it. The second market to get Bixby after South Korea. Users can activate Bixby by pressing its dedicated button and installing an update.
Press that button. We actually have somebody who tried this out already and emailed about it. We'll talk about that a little later. Here's some other top stories. Apple wireless software engineering leader Isabel Gay-May will move to Shanghai to take on a new role as VP and Managing Director of Apple's Greater China business. She'll report to CEO Tim Cook and COO Jeff Williams. She is a native of China. She was born there and then went to college in Canada and the U.S. She's worked on key products like Apple Pay, HomeKit, CarPlay, as well as some of the China-focused iOS features like QR code support. Apple's China business has experienced 5 straight quarters of declining revenue, and it is still a potentially huge market for them. They have a lot of room to grow if they can figure it out.
Yeah, I think she sounds like a great pick. She certainly has a bunch of experience in the Apple stuff. That's what you want, but you also probably aren't going to be harmed by having somebody who understands the culture, understands the business culture, and understands the way the laws and cultures work there in general. You need more of that to break into China in ways that are more meaningful. And certainly Apple, among others, are a company that want to do that more and better. Nintendo released its Switch app for Android and iOS. So this is ahead of the launch of Splatoon 2 on Friday. We knew that this was probably going to happen, but everybody kind of assumed that the app would come out day and date. I think they're maybe doing some early load testing or, you know, just generally get it out there so it's one less thing to sort of worry about on the big launch. Things will be nuts as it is. But anyway, the app will allow features like voice chat and game invites. This all starts with Splatoon 2 and more games down the road. There are some concerns. It appears, for example, when you use the app and you want to use the voice functionality, you have to have the app open and on the entire time that you're using it.
Yeah, it won't work in the background. Is that it?
Yeah, and that's obnoxious. So they need to fix that. That's easily fixable. There are plenty of apps that work in the background.
Here's my guess on that. One engineer says, well, why would you need to do anything else on the phone? You're playing the game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And sure, but I'm going to say they didn't ask gamers how they use voice tech in their game. They'll use the phone when it makes sense to use the phone, but an on all the time thing is not what people are going to look for while they're playing the game. They want to connect with their friends like they do already with Discord or other services. They want to start those voice channels and they want to turn it off and have it happen in the background. If it's on a phone, if it's on the console itself, like all this does, in my opinion, is make it harder for Nintendo to explain themselves about having to have this separate app and not having this functionality through the console itself.
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, think about it. If you want to be able to hear your game sounds and talk on this app and hear people talk back, you need a splitter. because you got audio coming from two places. Now you could use speakerphone, I suppose, but that's not ideal. There's a lot of people who really want to hear really well, have it in their headphones, right? There is an adaptable game headset built for this that you can get, but not everybody wants to spend more money to buy another piece of equipment if they don't already have that. And the other thing is, well, if you're going to go to all that trouble anyway, why not just use Skype, which can you work in the background, you know?
Yeah. I mean, Discord right now, I could use Discord with 30 of my friends.
Or Discord. Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever. And not have to worry about this. So to me, it just feels like they're not paying attention to what people already do in 100 cases on PC, on other console platforms. Like there's data out there that would help you know how to design this. And I'm not sure they know what they're doing yet. But that being said, I think the app has potential. I like their idea of every game kind of gets its own part of the app. That's the plan anyway. I think that's interesting.
It'll make more sense once more features besides the chat and more games show up there. I'll grant you that.
Yeah, and we can't judge it on this first week. There's no way. It's too early. But
just Sawyer agrees.
She's got some opinions. I hope that Friday when the actual game comes out, which is now 2 days away, that they're ready enough though to handle the load. Splatoon 2 is expected to be a big hit, and they need to be as ready as they can be.
Facebook's Campbell Brown told the Digital Publishing Innovation Summit Tuesday that Facebook may begin testing a paywall for news stories as early as October. Plan is still being developed, but a source told TechCrunch it would be along the lines of giving users 10 free articles a month before requiring them to purchase a subscription or at least authenticate one they already had. To be clear, it would be a subscription with the publisher. So if you want to read your 11th Wall Street Journal article or your 11th New York Times article, for example, you would need to log in with your subscription for those publishers. Facebook isn't selling these subscriptions. In fact, Facebook doesn't really want to do this from what I can tell. They're only doing it to keep the publishers happy.
I know the exact comparison here, and it's what Prime Video is doing for Amazon. It started out as their content, licensed content, and Prime subscription. But soon it became a place to go get an add-on subscription to HBO and Showtime and Starz and everybody else. And they've done this now for a while, but nobody's ever accused Amazon of being they're not selling HBO.
Yeah, but the analogy breaks down when you think about history. We are historically accustomed to only getting to watch cable television that we pay for. You pay for the Amazon video, even if it's part of your Prime subscription. And then you're used to if I want to watch Starz, I pay extra to watch Starz, right? We're not accustomed to that with reading stories on the web. Reading stories on the web is free. We're used to just going to a website and going free. And anything outside of big mainstream organizations like technology news or entertainment blogs, those are all free. So it's an entirely different expectation, especially in Facebook, where up until now, everything has been free. You never hit a paywall in Facebook. So I'm not saying it won't work. Wall Street Journal has made a very successful paywall. If anybody can make it work in Facebook, it's the Wall Street Journal. But it is definitely counterculture to what people are used to.
I wonder if it would drive, though, any new Wall Street Journal subscriptions, which I would think would be the idea. Otherwise, just send people off to the Wall Street Journal like normal. You know what I mean? Like if I'm on Facebook and I'm presented with an article that says Wall Street Journal requires a subscription, I either already have that or I already don't want that. So, So I'm kind of with you on that point. And the analogy isn't really one-to-one, and certainly, but I think there's going to be some brand confusion where people are going to think that this is Facebook saying we're going to start charging for access to internet articles, and that's bad. They do not want that,
because there's been that ridiculous rumor for decades now, practically, that Facebook was going to start charging you next week, right? Like that's a meme on the internet, and this is going to feed the fears of people who don't pay attention closely and think that might be true. On the other hand, if you're a Wall Street Journal subscriber and you pay for it, this is nice. Because you're saying you're going to see it as, oh, wow, this is more value from my subscription. I can now log in and still read these right here on Facebook. But most people aren't.
Yeah.
So it's just going to be a reason for them not to read that article if they hit the 10 limit, which is why they do 10 free, because you know, that keeps that limit from being hit hard, and it only hits the people who are reading a lot of your articles, who might say, well, you know what, I read a lot of their stuff, it's worth paying for.
You think it's worth? Do you think Amazon, or not Amazon, I keep saying Amazon, do you think Facebook's benefit here is that they're keeping people in the wall? In other words,
for sure, they don't want people to leave and go. Wall Street Journal would be fine with people going to the Wall Street Journal's website and log it in. Then they get to capture that entire relationship.
Yeah, because it doesn't sound like they're actually going to benefit monetarily, other than they're going to keep eyeballs where they want them.
Yeah.
WhatsApp users in China have reported an inability to use the messaging app without VPN for photos and videos. Simple text messages still seem to get through. Bloomberg reports WhatsApp is not responsible for the outage. The thinking is that China and ISPs controlled or influenced by the state are doing that. However, I just want to say real quick, I said this yesterday as I guested on TNT. I'm in a relationship with WhatsApp now. I don't know when it happened or how it happened, but my international friends and some family members have all kind of glommed onto it as the go-to for sort of cross-continental communication. And I was scoffing at it originally, didn't think it was going to be that big a deal, just yet another messaging app. I thought it would be cluttered. It wasn't. I thought it'd be a pain. It's not. I wanted desktop. They have it. Like, all of that stuff is there, and I really like it. So I kind of feel bad that people in China can't use it the way they want to, because I think it's a pretty tight app. I know Facebook owns it, but they haven't meddled with it in the way that they've meddled with, like, I don't know. Message.
Yeah, because Facebook is not allowed in China, but apparently WhatsApp kind of skated in under that because they were operating before Facebook bought them.
Right.
And my guess is, with the passing of the recent dissident, China is cracking down on the sharing of images and videos specifically about that person. So that may be what's going on here, and it may be temporary. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, but there's still ways around it, like you said, VPN and things like that. Although I guess use that stuff at your own risk.
They're cracking down on VPN too, requiring ISPs not to pass along VPN traffic unless it's from an authorized corporate agency. So
I haven't looked this up, but I assume you can't even get like Signal in China, right? Because Signal's like has to be the biggest no-no ever. It's end-to-end encryption, least trackable.
I don't know that they could stop someone from using it through a VPN if they could get a VPN. That's a fair question, though, is like how easy or hard is it to use Signal in China? I mean, you can use Tor in China, but again, you have to work around some blocks to do it.
Yep.
Security software company Avast has acquired Piriform. That's a UK company, and if you're like, I don't know who that is, maybe you do, because they make CCleaner. CCleaner is probably the most popular way to get temporary files cleaned up off your Windows, your Mac, your Android system. CCleaner has 130 million users. It's been around forever. We were talking about CCleaner on Tech TV back in the day. They are now part of Avast, which, by the way, just bought AVG last year. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, when I used to do top fives at CNET, a lot of times I'd do top 5 downloads, and the top 5 downloads would be Avast, AVG, and CCleaner. So they're all in one. Trying to remember what the other two might have been. Piriform employees will join Avast's consumer business unit, and CCleaner will continue as a standalone product.
Nice. I always wonder if those things are doing anything for me. I have a couple of them. I run them. They're cool. I feel like they're telling me that memory's being freed up, or some dead disk space drive that wasn't being used, or has old files that we can purge, that they're being removed. But I never really notice any kind of like huge boosts. So I'm not actually sure why this stuff is as successful as it is. I wonder if it just makes people feel better about how their machine's running, and that's enough.
Well, at the very least, it will free up space. If you've got a smaller hard drive, you're getting towards your limit. I've used CCleaner for exactly that reason in the past. And what's funny is Avast and AVG also have competing software that does exactly this, and it doesn't look like they're going to get rid of any of them. They're just going to let all three continue for now.
Wow. I wonder if will they benefit each other? Will there be shared technology? You know, like just
good question. Like, will these teams kind of share things until the three pieces of software start to mimic each other, or will it be like Waze and Google Maps, where they just sort of let them go their own way?
We'll see. Ooh, it's funny you brought that up, because maybe there's a transition there after this.
Yeah. Folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. It's a podcast. It's an Amazon Echo flash briefing. And good news, UK users. Tinvec is on the case. We got an answer out of Amazon finally, and I think we figured out how to get this thing in the UK Amazon Echo store. I was under the misimpression previously that setting it for global distribution meant everybody could get it, but apparently you have to resubmit it to each country store. Anyway, long story short, hopefully coming to the UK Amazon Echoes soon and available on the Anchor app at anchor.fm. And that is our top stories. Now, you may wonder, like, Tom, what about that big Google news? I'm seeing it everywhere. Well, Google has added its feed of personalized information cards to the home screen of its Android and iOS apps. It was there for Android users since December, but it's even been tweaked a little for those users as well. A lot of what used to be called Google Now is there. So you have cards, but the cards that are about your appointments and stuff, those are now in a separate tab. The main tab is very news-based. It gives feedback. It gives you news that it thinks you're interested in based on what it knows about you. So if you use search, use calendar, use Gmail, all that stuff, you can adjust what is shown. So you can tap on a card or visit the settings to unfollow a topic or a publisher, or you can even just say, I'm not interested in this, and it'll stop doing it. Search results will include follow buttons when you're using these apps for some types of results, not all results, but they showed Stranger Things with a follow button to say, hey, I like Stranger Things. I did a search for it. I want that to show up in my feed. And news results will offer alternative sources and fact-checking from time to time as well. So this is basically Google Now with news, and Google Now updates move to the tab called Updates. And there's talk that this might actually end up on the Google homepage. Right now, if you go to google.com, you get the logo and the search box, as you always have, and you get a few stories along the bottom. Those aren't necessarily customized the way these will be customized. This would be an entire feed, basically a news feed.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far out on a limb here, but I think it's like weirdly the Yahooization of Google. And I brought that up this morning, and you immediately made a really good point. The blank Google page doesn't get used very much. I mean, I'm not using it. I use the search or the actual address window to do most of my searches on a browser. When it comes to mobile, same thing. I'm using the search either in Safari or Chrome or wherever I'm at. I'm just going straight in there. That's the standard now. So how many people are actually ending up on this page that has the multicolored Google name, a single space to put in your question or your search, and a little microphone off to the right? It doesn't. I don't think people are going there anymore. It's like wasted real estate.
That's the big gamble, right? Google's saying, okay, Tom, we're going to tell you it's 75 degrees in LA. We're going to give you the Game of Thrones news. We know you like Game of Thrones. Netflix releases the Punisher teaser. Okay, I'm interested in that. Cardinals scores with the Mets. Here's the standings. Here's some Washington Post news, Eurogamer news, Quartz news. I mean, Twin Peaks news. It's not bad. But am I going to open this thing up and go there on purpose? Even when it's on the web, am I going to go to the homepage on purpose to look at this? That's what Google's gambling on, is that I'll find this so useful, I'll want to check in with it every once in a while.
Well, so let's go back to the original point. If people aren't already going to google.com as their homepage, if they don't have that set in their browser as the default, and I don't even think Chrome comes that way. I think Chrome's default is just a version of that, but with your most recent open pages below it. I think that's how it works. Well, I can tell you right now. I can do a tab. Yeah, so you've got a Google search window, and it looks like eight small versions of things I've been to recently. So
I have trending stories from Pocket on mine.
Oh, so well,
but that's an extension. So
that's the other thing, is maybe it gets weird and extensions change that and everything else, and that's a whole nother bag of tricks for these guys. But it doesn't feel like it's going to drive more people to google.com, the domain. I already go to Google News all the time. I'm already getting this from 1,000 other sources. I think if I'm an Android user, I probably really appreciate this, because this is a destination for where I am. And if I'm using the app on iOS, well, then you'll probably benefit here as well. But I think on desktop, I'm not going there every day. Even if I knew it was good and it was great, I don't think I'd remember. I just have too many other ways I get around now. I
go to Google News for that, yeah. Right? And I know it's not customized for me, but I kind of don't want it to be.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to the fact that the people who like to use Facebook for this, or Twitter, like it because they are seeing other people tell them interesting things, right? I can either go to Google News or Tech Meme, or just my favorite news outlet, the Wall Street Journal or Weekly Standard or something, and get the news I want. When I say I'm not talking about myself here. People use Facebook and Twitter to say, what are other people interested in? Let me see what else is out there. I get what Google's doing. And like you say, this is very Yahoo. Yahoo used to do exactly this. It's possible that we don't want that we don't want a customized selection. And there are people in the chat room saying I use this every day. So I'm not saying nobody wants it. And definitely just now when I looked at mine, I'm like, that's pretty useful. Actually, it's got the things I'm interested in, but maybe not all the things I'm interested in.
To me, it's like what I've done to Netflix. I've virtually ruined it. And I know I can fix that with accounts and stuff, but I'm too lazy right now to do it. But Netflix has destroyed my queue. It's made it seem that all I want is clowns from outer space and terrible horror movies. And that isn't the case. The things I watch for fun and that aren't part of that show are...
You need to set up a FilmSack profile.
I totally do. Yeah. The problem is the damage is done. I need to rename...
Well, set up a Scott Johnson profile.
Yeah, exactly. I need to call that one the FilmSack file.
Yeah.
Profile and do the other one. But like this news that's serving up to me today, I think it thinks I'm really interested in things like this one. Family tossed from JetBlue flight after toddler kicks a seat. Something about R. Kelly and a Madonna story.
I mean, anybody who listens to TMS is nodding right now going, yep, that sounds like the right stuff.
Ding, ding, ding. So I know that I'm kind of special case in this scenario, and I don't want that to color my opinion, and it may well be doing that, but it just seems like, and I'm going to mainly, frankly, talk about desktop. If it's on my phone, sure, it's a matter of just flipping around and cool, whatever. I see something I like and I go. It's very casual, very simple. That desktop option, though, is going to take work, and I just don't think I'm interested. Yeah. So maybe.
And what's funny is it's really no extra work on. It's actually more work on mobile because you have to find the app and launch it. Whereas you're probably already in the browser and you can just quick, Control T, open tab, and you're there. Yeah. But yeah, it's not something I'm going to remember to do. Like, let me check my Google feed. Mm-hmm. I mean, famous last words, right? In 5 years, we may all be like talking about our Google feeds every day and what we saw on them. But
what I really miss, or what I wish they would do, Google Reader was awesome for a reason. And the reason it was awesome is I could go find my favorite Reddit page. I could then go find my favorite IGN articles or the RSS feed for my favorite tech blog or whatever. And I could integrate this stuff all in a way I wanted to get. And then they could still pepper that with, well, here's what we think you want, but also here's all the things you've set up.
And that's what they're doing here. They're saying, here's what we think you want. You can remove things, but you can't, and you can follow things sometimes by topic. You can't add a particular publisher yet. That's the only thing.
Yeah, and that's frustrating. So I don't know. I think good luck to them. It does feel like it's sort of anti the old simplicity of Google, a page with a search and a logo. I always kind of like that, admired that. It's like, we don't need all that extra stuff. We have what you need here because you're going to search and find it. This feels like that's not that anymore, and that's okay. We've come a long way since that was important. So overall, I'm fine with it, but I just wonder how much usage it's going to get. And you don't even have to tell us. That's the thing about Google. They're working on 4,000 things at a time, iterate, change, tweak at the whim of whatever. And it's because that's not their business model. Their business model is made in other places, so they can be experimental. And in some ways, I love that. I love the apps that I use the most from Google, but they have got a lot of clutter in there, man. A lot of stuff no one's using anymore, apps that have been deprecated for years. Like that's the only concern I have, is that, are they really committed to this? And if they are, what does that mean? Does it make them any money? Does it not? Do they care? Like, there's always that hovering around Google stuff like this.
Yeah. Whenever you're like, well, I'm going to make this my new thing. That's in the back of your mind. I think it's a great implementation. I think it's better than Google Now, which was good. I wonder, I'm not saying it won't, but I wonder if it will get pickup, if people will use it. So
very curious.
If you're out there saying I already use it, or I'm definitely using it, then I'm wondering how many of you there are. That's all. There may be a lot. I don't know. Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can get over there and submit stories and vote on them at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You can also participate in our Facebook page, facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow or facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow. Get to some emails here. Someone who wished to remain anonymous, not Ebenezer Scrooge, claimed they worked with Glass in an enterprise setting and wrote in to say they think the Wired article oversold the new version of Glass. The person cites the following: companies need to find a partner for software to make it usable in their setting. I mean, Google gives it with an operating system, but not the software you need to make it work in your warehouse or factory or whatever. Prism display size is still tiny, and according to this person, you need to refocus on it, which disconnects you from anyone you are interacting with. Called battery power laughable, in this email, complained of normal Wi-Fi connectivity issues, and said voice command reminded them of original Siri. In conclusion, so it really all comes down to how much time, effort, and money a company is willing to spend on this, and it must be an application that makes sense for the limiting factors I mentioned above. I don't want people to think this new version is some grand turnkey redesign that organizations will be grabbing off the shelf and using right away. So this person does not like using Glass in the workplace very much. I'm curious if there's anybody else out there who's been using Glass in enterprise. I've been a big defender of the fact that, hey, Glass didn't die. It just found a home on the factory floor. And this person's saying, well, it sort of did, but I don't know how useful it really is.
I have only one question about it, and I made an assumption. It was probably an improper one. When I was reading about getting all this in my head yesterday, I assume that Glass 2.0, for lack of a better way of saying it, would address most of what he's got on his list. So, for example, it doesn't really address the companies need to find a partner with the software, but one would assume things have gotten more robust. So, perhaps it's easier to get there. But the display size, the disconnects, the battery power stuff, Wi-Fi connectivity, and voice command, my assumption is all that stuff needs to be and has to be better for them to do this initiative at all. So if they're not doing that, if it's just going to be straight up the old Glass you were using in its very prototypical $1,500 form, then yeah, I share his concerns. But is it wrong for me to assume that Google has addressed all those things? Because I don't see how they move forward if they don't.
Yeah, and that's why I'm curious. This is one person's opinion, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm not saying they're right. I'm just curious if there's anybody else out there who has been using Glass. Victor also wrote in, good to hear from Victor, said, I don't know if this is DTNS worthy, but last night I got an update to my Samsung S8 with Bixby. I played around with it for about an hour, updating apps, which is required for all apps that Bixby can interact with, training the voice recognition, which isn't bad overall, and trying to get it to do things. Here are my first impressions. And same goes as with the last email. This is one person's impressions. Victor says, the fact that I can only launch apps that it can interact with is annoying. I don't use Samsung's calendar, email, etc., so I can't even open the calendar app I use, for instance. Voice recognition isn't bad, not on par with Google or Amazon voice services, but acceptable. They're trying to get people to use it by providing experience points towards levels and even Samsung points, which it seems can be converted to money or prizes and early access to new features like beta testing access. So that's good, I suppose. Funny thing, when I asked it to do one thing, it responded with, I couldn't understand that, but it pronounced couldn't as couldn't-y, which made me laugh. So it still has a little way to go. There also doesn't seem to be a way to tell Samsung about these issues so they could fix them. If you care, I will continue to write about my experiences. Well, thank you, Victor. And same with this. If anybody else is using Bixby and has had a different experience from Victor, let us know as well. feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
I agree. By the way, I think it's impossible to release a new voice assistant on the market without having all kinds of trouble for at least the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Just my opinion after experience with all these devices doing that. They kind of suck at first, and it's okay. It's okay.
And then finally, we'll have the full email from Bruce in our show notes. But Bruce wrote in response to the fireman talking about the Knox box yesterday. The Knox box being a box that has keys to your place, and only firemen are supposed to be able to get the key. Some years ago, his office building was broken into, and the thieves made off with all of the racked hardware in their server room, including their Exchange server, dev and QA resources, and network storage. And the way they got in was breaking open the Knox box. Somehow. They're not easy to break into, but these guys figured it out. He says, I know other versions of the Knox box have compensating tech, including alarms, but our landlord hadn't kept up with the improvements, much like happens in software.
Yeah, I don't trust those things. Physical box to keep my keys in? Nope.
Well, thank you, everybody, for writing in and sharing your experiences with us. It helps make the show better. And as I always say, we have the smartest, awesomest audience in all of podcasting. So it's great to hear from you. And thank you, Scott Johnson, for joining us, as always.
Thank you. The nice thing about what you just said is that I often sometimes get to share some of those same people. So I get the backdraft effect of your awesome listeners sometimes meander over to my weird mom and pop show, and it's great. So big thanks to all those who do that. I love that we kind of have some shared space with our audiences. And thanks for having me on. If you guys want to find more of me all the time, you can find me on Twitter @Scott Johnson. Some new projects coming up that will show up at frogpants.com as well. So keep your eyes peeled.
Thanks to everybody who supports this show. We are only supported by our listeners, not by advertisers. It's a value for value model. Instead of us hoping that you spend money with someone else who will keep most of the money and throw a few cents our way, we just say, hey, you spend less money, we'll keep more of it, and everybody wins. So if that sounds good to you and you want to support the show, there's some perks that go along with it too, like early access to stuff or special pre and post show things. It's all at patreon.com/DTNS. Thanks to Nick Dreyfus, Ron Yankowski, Matt Shaney, and everybody who supports us over there. Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're live Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC at alphageekradio.com and diamondclub.tv, or at facebook.com/dailytechnewsshow. And our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Back tomorrow with Mr. Justin Robert Young. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the FrogPants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Oh my gosh. You nailed the half-hour mark.
I know.
Right on the dot, dude.
It's the radio in him. It's the DJ.
Yeah, you got me thinking all radio-like earlier.
I'm like, oh, the time's coming. I gotta
hit the
get
post.
That was
I show 30 minutes, 37 seconds total.
Sure. That's all right. You'd run a shorter PSA about the local puppy shelter. It'll be fine.
Yeah. That's funny that you did. I noticed that too.
Right on. I mean, while you were reading that tail end, I watched the clock turn over and I got all excited. I never hit anything on time, so that was cool.
That's so funny. All right, Roger, what do we got for titles?
Fight the brand that feeds. Feed me, Seymour. Nintendo 'O. Google feeds us info. Nintendo Switch's update. Tears. Ooh, Tears for Fears. Get it?
TIER?
Yes.
Oh,
I voted it. Tears for Fears. I like that.
Yeah.
WhatsApp China? Question mark. Avast Cleaner. Oh wait. Oh, this one's good from Dark Redeemer. Avast has a Piriform victory.
I
like that one.
like Pyrrhic.
Feed us Google. The Yahooization. The Yahooization of Google.
Right.
I'm not sure if that slash is supposed to be in there on purpose.
Nah, that might be in the typo.
They feed us. Oh, you said feed us, Google. Never mind.
Feed me.
I said something else.
More. I'll stop that right now.
Tears for Fears. Feed me. See, I like Tears for Fears.
Tears for Fears is really good.
That's pretty good.
I think that's a pretty funny, ingenious one.
Igneous one. It's an igneous. I used to think igneous rock was an ingenious rock.
Oh, yeah?
Shout.
Let it all out. These are the things.
We're going to let it all out. Just unlike I'm going to let go of what's his name. I'm going to let him out.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't do anything except say.
What are the tiers that we're referring to in this title, though?
Oh,
was it? Yeah, was it the Facebook?
Yeah, so I need to add that to the.
Snot, let it all out.
Nintendo. Yeah, we're probably not going to use it.
Nintendo. Are you going to get the little mini SNES when it comes out?
Yeah, probably if I get my hands on it. I think that thing looks great, and I love the. One of the thing I was most impressed with, or one of the things I was most impressed with the NES one, was the controllers are exactly like the originals. I have an original, and I put them next to each other, and the way they feel, push, the release on the buttons, all of it is like identical. So I love SNES controllers, and I really want those controllers. That seems like a weird thing, but I totally want them. So yeah, who am I kidding? I totally want them.
Are you going to get it though?
Yeah. I mean, well, stock.
I know he can get the job, but can he do the job?
You know, if I can get, if someone has stock on the damn thing somewhere, somebody, and then where I got my NES was some fan got an extra one and gave it to me, or sold it to me, so that was good. So maybe that'll happen again. I don't know.
I got to play with the NES because my brother-in-law went to all the trouble to buy one and then brought it to our house.
That's great. Make him do all the work.
Yeah. So
He
you
went
hear that,
to-
Sean? Do it again.
He went through all the
Thanks.
trouble. Didn't he just order it online like everyone else?
You didn't try, did you?
No.
You couldn't just order it. You had to work at it.
Yeah. And
It was
I didn't
so hard to get it.
either. I have to admit, I was kind of wimpy about it. I was kind of like, well, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. They'll probably make them forever. Then that changed.
Nope.
Then
Just
I would-
wait. Give it a couple of months, and then I'm sure the Chinese factory that cranked them out will crank them out again under a different name.
Yeah.
I was about to disagree with you. Like, no, Nintendo's not. And then I'm like, oh, under a different name.
Yeah.
But call it the
Nice.
OES system.
I see what you're saying.
It'll
The
call it
Oriental Entertainment System.
the Oriental Entertainment System.
They just have to change one letter. That's it.
It's a terrible idea. No, like,
Nintendo.
You've never seen the Poly Station?
oh no, I've seen that stuff.
The Poly Station, it's great.
It'll be the Nintendo NESS.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
But see, okay, the whole point of buying this thing is not to play the games. You can play the games in an emulator right now. The point of it is to have the little miniature version of it and get the whole nostalgia burst. So if you're getting one that says Nintendo NES, does that still have the same nostalgia punch?
I don't know. Like, see, this is the thing. Knockoffs used to be kind of sneered at as something you would get because you were too poor to get the actual thing. But there is a market for those knockoffs, believe it or not. Like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
I
I
know
think in the
people who
70s
collect
and 60s that was the case, Roger. But yeah, I think in the past
well,
20
I wasn't
years, it's
around
become-
then, Tom, so I wouldn't know.
No, I mean, I think that's been true for a long time that people are like knockoffs are funny. Let's get the knockoff.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, people collect them because what it's interesting to me because it's sort of the cottage industry around the main product in the same way that you have so many Apple related products. You just have all these other products.
I bought a knockoff TOG watch in New York City once because I just thought it was funny. And it was like $15, right?
Was it called Tap?
It was, you know, I think this one just didn't have the name on it. It was all other ways identical, but they just didn't put a name on it, if I remember right. Anyway, I wore that thing for a year and a half for $15. It was a pretty decent watch.
That's right. It's yeah. Took me forever to stop looking at my wrist when I stopped wearing watches. It's like, wait, oh, I don't have a watch. Now I just look at my phone. Right,
You wear a watch, Scott?
I do. It's a Fitbit Charge too,
Oh,
but it's
you
basically
wear a Fitbit Charge.
first thing it does when I lift it up to my face. It says 3:07 p.m. July 19th, but it's got all the Fitbitty crap going on. I like it a lot though. Although I hated its band. The band that came with this thing sucked. So I went to Amazon and found this $10 metal magnetic clasp one, stainless steel one for $10, and it's awesome. Fits perfectly, locked right in, no issues. I can get it wet. It's great.
Feed it after midnight.
Yeah, don't do that though, because then it becomes Mugwai. Or no, Mugwai became a gremlin. That's how it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
And
the
if you got it
Mogwai.
wet-
No, his name was Gizmo, but the creature is the Mogwai.
Mugwai,
Turns into
right.
Gremlin.
He was Gizmo the Mogwai, and if you got them wet, they would be gremlins, but you came with a free Frogurt, or I might be confusing a Simpsons episode with it.
No, because the Frogurt was also haunted.
Right.
Homer said that was bad, but it comes with your choice of free topping. That's good, but the toppings are also haunted. That's bad.
Yeah, I think he said cursed. The toppings
Cursed.
are cursed. Such a classic.
There's so many classic ones at the beginning, and there's so many other ones that they kind of recycled throughout the series.
I'm waiting for the trend to come back of quoting The Simpsons, like current episodes, because it seems to go in cycles.
It does. I think they've been killing it lately. I mean, I don't know how much of it's quotable, but the writing.
I haven't seen any of the recent ones in the past 2 years.
They've been good.
But I haven't heard anybody talking about them.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's such an anomaly. The fact that it's even anything still. is so weird.
Been talking about this a lot lately. I wonder why.
The Simpsons?
Yeah.
Because we all grew up with it and we all were alive and remember when it started.
But there's so many other things that fit that definition. Why the symptoms why the symptoms of talking about the Simpsons lately?
Because it's impacted it's weird because it's an odd yet it's an oddly comical yet also extremely relevant reflection of American family life.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was true of it a year ago, and we weren't talking about it all the time. You know what I'm saying? Why has it come up recently so much?
I don't know. Maybe we're coming back around, like you said.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's about to die. These things come in cycles, and
maybe we've always talked about it, but just never on the stream.
Maybe.
I think of all the
I'm trying to think. Like, do I talk about it outside? Maybe I do.
I mean, we use catchphrases, right? We say meh. Remember, before Lisa said meh, what did people say? Like, they go, right? And then they added the M, EH. Yep. And what's the other one that David Spade used in the award show? It's like yada, yada, yada. Or was it yada, yada?
I was older than that.
And there are a few others. Oh, I am so smart. SMRT. I mean SMART.
Good one.
I am so smart. And you know what? It's such a rich vein of syndicatable material that anyone would pay for because it's a known quantity of people watching it. Right?
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, why do we not have all 26 seasons or whatever it is now on some service? And I realized it's probably because you're talking about literally 26 seasons of 24 episode seasons. Like
they're all on FX.
Are they on FX?
Yeah.
But I wonder if anyone's done like the streaming and coding work that has to be done to get it ready for something like, Netflix.
Probably.
No, I mean, you can go to the FX app if you subscribe to a service that lets you log in and watch all the Simpsons.
Oh. Well, they should put it on Hulu like they do Futurama. They just moved.
That way you don't have to pay for another service.
Yeah, and Bob's Burgers and stuff. They put all that over there. Let's do it.
Bob's Burgers, bugs.
Yeah, but those aren't. Yeah.
Bob's Burgers is a national treasure.
You're a national treasure.
Well, get a room, you two.
That is the least offensive thing anyone's ever said to me.
Your mom's a national treasure.
Doesn't have quite the same sting.
No, it really does. It doesn't, does it?
That's not what she referred to me last night.
Whoa.
Zing, bam.
Zing, bada bing. All right. I love this. Check it out. I am in my podcast app right now.
Yeah.
And
the Daily Tech News Show is brought to you by listeners just like me and you, not outside organizations.
Oh my gosh.
Daily Tech News Show is just downloaded.
This episode?
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that was quick.
DailyTechNewsShow.com/support.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, July 19th, 2017. I'm Tom Merritt, Scott Johnson along this afternoon, getting you home on a Wednesday afternoon, everybody. There's actually a lot of people listening to this in the morning. So
Yeah, you were earlier doing an incredible throwback. How do you hear podcasts this way? I can't fathom it. It's crazy to me.
Well, I don't know what you mean, Scott.
You know what I mean. You know what I think it is? I think it's just, I don't know.
So how fast is that sped up? Like 30%?
2 1/4.
He's like Data. He's like Data looking at screens trying to get all the info about the crystalline entity before Picard.
you think this is it?
No, this is 7.3. This is it. There may be a bridge patch, but this is all winding up. You've got to
That's crazy.
It does cause issues sometimes when I hear you talk in real life.
Well, I apologize for how slow I am normally.
you know who it really because I do this every week with you. When I do Let's Talk About Star Wars with Garrett, after hearing him at 2 1/4 speed on Angry Chicken, I'm just like, man, why is Garrett talking so slow? And then I have to remind myself, oh right, he's talking at normal speed.
I think that's so funny.
Yeah. It gets me able to listen to a bunch more things. That's why I do it.
Yeah. I don't think you should go changing. You should do what works for you.
Don't go singing. All right, folks. Well, thank you all for hanging out with us. You are our bestest friends.
Oh.
And we will always treasure. You're the national treasures, really, right?
But Nicolas Cage told me once.
Yeah.